Welcome to this virtual podcast of the American Sheep Industry Association. As we post this in mid-September to give the status of the ASI Executive Board and their meeting plans for the end of this month. The action item on this next meeting will be the preliminary investigation of U.S. trade law violation by lamb importing companies. So it's a great opportunity to share another update what we've provided over recent months to the 44 state affiliates of ASI, as well as the 200 plus ASI Council Committee members, 58 members of the ASI board, and 7,000 members across the country. We expect a recommendation on trade law violations from the Washington, D.C. based law firm of Kelly Dry. That recommendation memo should give us the preliminary results of their investigation for both anti-dumping, which is selling lamb in the United States below the cost of production in Australia, New Zealand, or selling lamb below what they're selling the product in their own market compared to the U.S. And countervailing it would be subsidies used in the production and sales of foreign lamb in the U.S. market. So the recommendation, it should provide a strength, an estimate of the strength of the case, both in winning. One part being we have to win on injury. So we have to show an injury to the U.S. Sheep industry, the entire industry, sheep producers, lamb feeders, and lamb meat companies. The second piece is the margin. So that would be the percentage degree of dumping product or of subsidizing product. And that gives you a flavor then that if you proceed and win and you get tariffs, is that tariff 2% ad valorem, is it 5%, is it 25%? And that's very important because a 5% ad valorem, for example, if you had tariff at that rate, it wouldn't make any competitive price difference for our production in the marketplace. Both trade cases are to view Australia and New Zealand production. They're by far and away the dominant suppliers to the U.S. market. Secondly, the ASI Board of Directors, in addition to that memo, they'll have to make plans for the full ASI Board of Directors. In our interviews, we had multiple presentations from the top 2 law firms in America that specialize in U.S. trade law, and we negotiated with the winning firm a bid of $1.3 million to pursue trade cases with Australia and New Zealand. If you have both trade cases and both countries, you would expect that price to increase beyond it. But the ASI officers are in full agreement. Financial commitment of that magnitude needs to involve the full ASI Board of Directors. ASI has had a legal fund for 20 years. We have over 100 ranch and feedlot company supporters of that fund. But this commitment, we would have to raise hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars beyond what we have in the fund today, or wipe out the assets of the association. So the board absolutely has to be involved. Additionally, the board will have to consider the staff support and the political support that would have to be provided in addition to the lawyers and lobbyists for a 9-month period to see one of these cases through to the end. Secondly, with the full board of directors, the first option would be a virtual meeting if agreeable to the board. We might do an education session with them on U.S. trade law, similar to what we did with the exec board, and then have the board meet virtually to vote to pursue or not. Secondly, the next option would be we have the ASI convention and the full board of directors will actually meet on the 13th of January 2024 in person in Denver, Colorado. So that's the near-term plans of the exec board, the status of the preliminary investigation on violations of U.S. trade law, and our time frame for consideration by the full ASI board of directors. Just as a brief background for folks relating back, we had a request from 8 of our 44 state affiliates, as well as the National Land Feeder Association, which are our members, asking ASI to investigate lamb imports and encouraging us to use our legal fund to bring a firm on board to help us with the investigation. As I mentioned earlier, we interviewed the top 2 firms, multiple presentations. Both firms recommended pursuing preliminary on countervailing and anti-dumping cases. The firm we hired in May, they followed up with our hundreds of volunteer leaders on the injury surveys. We know that dozens of those were submitted, but those are fully confidential. And we also know the firm did hire their international analysts to do the foreign market research as well as U.S. market comparison prices as well as production costs. So we're about $55,000 into legal fees already at this point, which is very similar to the fees that we paid doing a similar investigation in 2020. The other piece that I'll provide is just my takeaways on this effort. I'm the only guy in the country that has actually built a strategy to file a legal petition and see it through successfully to win trade restrictions on both Australia and New Zealand lamb at the same time. We looked back over prior decades, and it hadn't been done before. So that was the ASI Exec Board pursued a 201 trade case, hired a law firm in August of 1998, filed a petition that fall, won the decision on injury, and a separate decision on remedy in 1999, and then we were able to politically persuade the White House in July of 1999 to implement trade restrictions on Australia and New Zealand lamb, as well as support for the domestic industry. What I can tell you, I have no doubt, to be successful with a trade case, you have to hire the best trade lawyers in the country to fight for you. Secondly, you have to have a top-notch lobbyist to do the same, to fight for you. We did it in 98, 99, and we're pursuing that track again. ASI has both available, and we intend to provide absolutely the best advice and guidance for the ASI Exec Board and in turn the ASI Board of Directors. So we look forward to keeping you up to date on this as the next few weeks progress, and look forward to answering any questions.